Hey, my name's James Nicholson and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I want to talk about Section 21. Section 21 is a no-fault eviction, and it's something that the Conservatives tried to outlaw, tried to get rid of, but they struggled. Now, Labour's just taken power, and one of the big points in their manifesto was that they would immediately ban Section 21. Well, they're in power now, hasn't immediately been banned. So I'm going to talk about in this video what could happen, what we expect to happen, and is it likely that Section 21 will finally be abolished. Now, before we jump into this video, as always, if you haven't done already, do subscribe to the channel over there and hit the bell notification. We're on the way to 26,000 subscribers. Every one of you counts, so do help us there. And smash like, tickle like, hit that like button, guys. That really helps me with the YouTube algorithm. It gets more views on the channel, and it just means you're an all-round great person if you do it. So, in 2019, way before all these crazy few years that we've had, the Tories, the Conservatives, in their election manifesto, said that they would get rid of Section 21. Sounds familiar? Well, in 5 years that they were in power since then, it didn't happen. And they did get a bill through called the Renters Reform Bill, and that nearly became law. If Rishi Sunak didn't call an early election, then it was likely that that Renters Reform Bill was going to become law. And that was all about making basically tenancies that don't end, making landlords had to allow pets in the property, having a redress scheme if the landlord's not looking after the property right. There was lots of good stuff in there. And one thing that they just couldn't get sorted was the Section 21. Now, Labour came in with all their promises and promised to immediately ban Section 21. They've also said they will build 1.5 million houses over 5 years. Now, every government says this stuff. They all say they're going to build more properties than the next party, and they just never really figure it out. Now, one thing that Labour is going to do with the house building is they're going to make planning a little bit easier to get through. So that might incentivise some developers. But the problem is that the developers aren't building not necessarily because of planning, it's because the interest rates are higher, so there's less customers to buy their end product, and that's the problem that needs sorting first. So, back to Section 21. Now, Labour have promised that they'll get rid of it immediately. I just don't see that happening. You've got to go through the legal process, and you would have to revitalise that Renters Reform Bill, which I think they will do. So, I think they will take that Renters Reform Bill off the shelf because a lot of the work has been done, and they will revise that and try and make it their own bill, probably change the name slightly so it's not giving credit to the Tories. Now, when they get that bill through, it will probably have the easy things in there, like you must allow pets, you must have rolling contracts, those sorts of things. You can't increase the rent a certain amount of times. Those things are quick, easy wins that people can say, you know what, they did that, right? But the Section 21 is the problem. Now, why is it a problem? Is because the courts aren't ready. And that's why the Conservatives didn't put it through in the Renters Reform Bill. What they said was that we will get the courts ready in order to deal with this. Because let's just say you can't get a tenant out. Now, there's two ways to get a tenant out. Firstly, is Section 21, which is what we're talking about here. And that's a no-fault eviction. So you can just go to your tenant for any reason and say, look, I want my property back. And then lots of people use it in unscrupulous ways to just get rid of tenants quickly and then put the property back on the market at a higher rent. So that's why charities don't like it, and that's why tenants don't like it. But some landlords used it because they had a difficult tenant that wasn't paying rent, that was causing damage to the property, or was a nuisance to people in that area, and they used that as a fast way to get rid of a tenant. The other way you can do it is with something called a Section 8. Now, Section 8 is a fault eviction. No fault, fault. And fault means that Maybe you haven't paid your rent. You've damaged the property. You've caused a social nuisance in the area. These things are things that sit in front of a judge, and the judge makes a decision on that if the tenant can leave. Now, here's the problem. Often, tenants know the loopholes in this. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that the tenant has arrears. They can get those arrears back up to date by the court hearing date, and then when they go to court, they're not in arrears, so they can't be evicted. But then they can go back into arrears, and there's a cycle of this stuff. So what the Tories were looking to do was get the balance so it's a little fairer for the landlords and the tenants. It needs to be a win-win, this new legislation, whatever it ends up being called. So if you want to take Section 21 out, that's fine. I don't have a massive problem with that. But what you do need to do is to make it fairer so landlords can get their property back fast if they need to for some reason. And that could be a distressed sale, could be that they need to live back in it, could be a relative living back there. There's lots of reasons why landlords might need or want their property back. If you abolish Section 21 and you just leave landlords with Section 8, what will happen is more landlords will leave the market. Now, you'll say, well, who cares? Who cares if landlords leave? Well, the problem with that is 30% of landlords quit in the last 2 years. The population grew at record numbers, and there are a number of people that maybe don't want to buy a property. Maybe they've just divorced and they want to rent short term, or maybe they can't afford to buy a property. Maybe they will never get a mortgage because they've got such bad credit that they need to rent somewhere. Maybe they're an international person that wants to work as a doctor or a nurse here that just needs somewhere to live, and they don't want to buy a property in the UK. There's tons of people that need to rent properties. And the other option is that you get these big corporations being your landlord, like Lloyds want to be the biggest landlord, or you get the local council, and invariably they are worse as landlords than a small independent one that has lots of rules and regulations on us already. And so what we need to do is we need to strike a fine balance. Now, do I think Labour is going to get rid of Section 21 in 2024? No, I don't think it's possible. I think they've got to restart their legislation, whatever that's going to be called, whatever it is. It will be a similar version of the Renters Reform Bill. I think they've got to start that process again. They've got to get the courts ready. They need to make sure that it's a fair process for landlords and for tenants. Then get rid of Section 21. I've never had to use one in my life. I don't think it's a massive problem to not have it, as long as if someone doesn't pay their rent and gets in arrears, that you don't have to wait 6 months in order to get a court date. Because if you're a small landlord with 1 or 2 properties, that could wipe you out financially. And that is happening to some people, and they end up with terrible credit ratings, the house getting repossessed because the tenants are playing the game. So if anyone's watching this with any opinion, I'd love to know your thoughts and opinion. Do you feel Labour is going to get rid of Section 21 in 2024? I just don't see it possible. I think it's one of those election promises that will fizzle out very quickly over the next few weeks. I don't think that you're suddenly also going to start seeing skyscrapers built with millions of houses in the UK starting next week either. I think these things take time. They've got to be done properly. And when you do that, it works for everyone. Thoughts and comments below. Do smash like. That helps me a great deal with the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe and hit the bell for more updates on this as it happens. And do check out all the other content on my channel, including this video right here.